Hey, this is Michelle, and you're listening to Words with Michelle, the podcast, a show where I sit down and have conversations with influencers on a range of topics, anything from natural hair, employment, discrimination, food, relationships, and everything in between. So sit back, relax, and enjoy. If you want to send me an email, hit me up at michelle@wordsmichelle.com. Thanks for tuning into the first episode for 2025 of Words with Michelle, the podcast. I love January because it's all about new things and starting fresh and creating new goals. You can create new goals at any time of the year, but for me, the new year just signals rejuvenation and renewal. I wanted to start off the new year continuing to provide episodes that inspire, inform, as well as educate. So the next few episodes will be focused on finding success by pursuing your potential, being successful in your small and micro business, and overcoming obstacles. To stay up to date with the podcast, please feel free to subscribe and follow Words with Michelle on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and any app that you use to listen to podcasts. This episode was inspired by meeting my guests when I showcased my book at a holiday market in December. I was speaking with Scott, a fellow author, and he mentioned that he knew Karl Subban, the dad of not one, not two, but three professional hockey players. Karl is also a motivational speaker, educator, and principal. Scott said that he worked with Karl on Karl's first book, and I should meet him. So Scott made a call. In just over an hour, I met Karl. Scott walked Karl over to my table and introduced us. Then they both asked me to tell them about my book. I was a bit nervous because they were both staring at me right in my eyes as they spoke about my book, but I was able to let them know exactly why I created my book. After Karl heard my story, he said he wanted to be on my show. And that's how this episode happened. Speaking with Karl was refreshing. He bubbles with energy, and he's a huge proponent of tapping into your potential, but also believes that there's other things that are at play to being successful. He believes that tapping into your potential starts with your goals being strengthened when you're a child. So parents have a huge role in nurturing a child's potential. Karl gives examples of how he parented his children and supported their needs. If you're struggling to effectively tap into your potential, or if you want your child to reach their full potential, this episode is for you. I start off the show asking Karl to introduce himself. Thanks for being on the show, Karl.
All right, thank you, Michelle, and I'm very happy to be on your show and to spend that time with you. I guess a little bit about Karl Subban. I was born in Jamaica, came to Canada the year I turned 12. Grew up in Sudbury, Ontario, and that's where a part of me that I didn't know started to grow. I was introduced to hockey through the children who lived on my street, and hockey has become a really important part of my life and my identity and my family's, as I've had three sons who were drafted and signed by NHL team, PK with the Montreal Canadiens, and Malcolm with the Boston Bruins, and Jordan with the Vancouver Canucks. I also have two daughters who are educators, one in the TDSB, an elementary school principal, so I'm very happy with that. I'm also an author. I've written three books. The first one was based on the question I was asked. It's called How We Did It. People wanted to know how we managed to raise three boys who were drafted and signed by NHL teams. And so the first book is about the picture of potential. And then my second book, called The Hockey Skates, really it focuses on the things preventing us from reaching our potential. And my third book, Raise the Roof, which will be out in March 2025, it's really about helping people to pursue their potential. So the first one is a picture of potential. The second book is about the things preventing us from reaching our potential. And my third book is about pursuing the potential. I've also been mostly as a school leader in Toronto District School Board. I've worked in the elementary panel. I also did 4 years at a private school, grades 4 to OAC, for student athletes. I'm also a trained, John Maxwell trained speaker and coach and trainer. I continue to get better because that's my life's mission, is helping people to do better and also to become more in their lives.
You just keep doing more and doing more and doing more. Like that, you are an inspiration. And you touch upon many things I want to speak about. And the one thing is, okay, so you have raised three hockey players, and because you did touch upon like hockey was instrumental in your life, but how did you do like literally? How did you raise three hockey players? What did you do to do that? Because that's a feat in itself. Like that's a
Well,
feat.
there's one difference maker in my life and in my hockey life. There's a difference maker.
Mhm.
And I speak about this, and it's really taking action.
Mhm.
You can't accomplish anything without taking action. Some people dream of taking action. Some people think about taking action, but you really have to just take effective action. And that's what we did. It's the parenting is also mixed into it because I'm first a parent, and so I love sports. Sports been a big part of my life. Growing up in Jamaica, it was cricket. When I came to Canada, and football, cricket and football, or soccer in Jamaica.
Mhm.
And when I came to Canada, hockey became a part of it. And I love the sports because the street I was living on with my family, my mom and dad, they're all everyone was francophone. They all spoke French and they were white, and but those kids, I was so fearful of them. I was very fearful of them. And one day they invited me to play hockey with them. That it was that kindness. They could have been hurtful to me, but they were so helpful. And maybe that's why I love hockey so much. And since then, it's been a big part of my life because it helped me with my transition into Canada. It gave me some friends. It gave me something to do, even gave me a dream because at one time I wanted to be a hockey player. So I grew up loving the Montreal Canadiens because all the kids on my street love the Montreal Canadiens. I didn't want to be the kid wearing the wrong jersey.
Oh my God, that's so
Anyway, I grew up watching the Sudbury Wolves, which is a junior team in Sudbury. When I started my family, we skated and we watched hockey, and it was something that the kids did. Even my daughters, they did it, and that skating and watching it grew into my boys each having a dream to become hockey players. And then we did what people do to be successful. We took effective action. I call it the 4 T's. Let me explain it. 4 T's,
okay.
just to package it for you.
Yeah.
Time. The boys made time to do their hockey tasks. The second T.
Okay.
You got to make time every day to do their skating, the tasks, skating, shooting pucks, training. We did that every day. The third T is training. First T is time. Second T is tasks. You know, and you train, you practice every day, and it leads into training. And the fourth T is team. No matter what your big goal or dream is, you got to be a good person. You got to be a good teammate. You
Mhm.
must be a good classmate. So basically, they used the 4 T's and they were consistent about it. They didn't do it one day. Rome wasn't made in a day. No one becomes better overnight. But the boys took those actions. They made their dreams actionable. They made time to skate every day, to shoot pucks, to do all those skill building things, and then the practice, made its way into training, and then they had to be good people too because when the Montreal Canadiens were drafting my eldest son, PK Subban,
Mm.
they went to his high school, interviewed his teachers. They wanted to know if he was teachable. Then
Wow.
they interviewed his classmates. They wanted to know if he was likable.
Are you
And
serious?
then they interviewed his coaching staff because they wanted to know if he was coachable. So the 4 T's is how we did it by us believing in their potential because it opened the door for me to speak about potential. You
Wow.
know,
Yeah.
just it became part of who we were. We didn't start out training the boys to become NHL hockey players. It's a process, and they grew into it. In dreams, what they say, dreams. That's why it's good to have big dreams, and sometimes they're so big you can't even fit into it. But you grow into it, and that's what they did. They grew into their big dreams, by taking effective actions. We do our best to give them the resources they need to reach their potential because that's the essence of parenting, is working with our children in ways that will help them to reach their potential. And so parents, you got to see that potential in them, and then you got to help them and support them to reach that potential. Spending time with them, make sure that you're loving them unconditionally. And they also need disciplining too. But remember, disciplining doesn't mean you take the spirit out of them. I learned a long time ago that disciplining is shaping the will, you know, without killing their spirit, and then giving them the resources to follow or to reach whatever dream that they want to reach. So parenting it's right there on top of my list.
I love that. Yeah.
Right? When parenting is missing, too often our children are missing in action. Other people have to come in and take up the slack, and it works. But if we want our children to get off to a good start, it's good when mom and dad are there supporting them to the best of their abilities.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, like parents need to. I like the fact that you said set boundaries because I know a lot of parents are afraid to say no, or I have to do this, or my child or my kids would be upset if I don't do this or buy this.
Yeah.
So it's true. We do. I mean, I've come from old school parenting, so my mother did say no a lot. So I mean, there was that boundaries, and I see that a lot of. I mean, this is me being not a parent, so I'm just I have to phrase that I'm not a
Mhm.
parent, but sometimes I see people that just always kind of give in to their kids and I just don't know that. I wasn't,
Yeah.
I wasn't born into that or wasn't raised by that, I should say. And I
Yeah.
love the fact that you say
No,
that.
no, that's a good. I have a line. We give them what they need. And that list has to be greater than giving them the things that they want. There are two lists, the needs and wants.
Mhm.
And the things they need are very important to them reaching their potential. So if you're checking it off, you need to have more check marks on the things they need, not the things they want. Because kids, they're not thinking about what they need. They don't think about what they want. And there's differences.
Okay, that's
Because
what I wanted to
if
ask you. Sorry, how did you get from, you were interested in sports? How did you get from sports to teaching then? I would love to know that.
Yeah, and so and I missed a couple of steps because of the time, but it was a dream. I had a dream. My life, we talk about growth, but dreams help you to grow.
Mhm.
When the your belief system is like a muscle that must be strengthened. Strengthened. That helps you to grow. The more you test it and taking action helps you to grow, right? So I had a dream to play basketball in the NBA. So I went to Lakehead University. And then I discovered something about myself I didn't know because dreams grow branches.
Oh.
Dream is like a trunk of a tree, your dream, your big dream. It's like a trunk, and then it starts to grow branches, you know? And so that was the branch, becoming an educator, because I wasn't going to make the NBA, right?
Mhm.
Anyway, I became an educator. I discovered something about myself working with children, teaching them basketball. I realized that they love me and I love them even more. And so I became an educator. Then someone saw something in me and said, "You should be a school leader." Wow. Someone saw that, said, "I think Carl, you should think about being a principal of a school." I said, "That sounds good." And then after that, I retired with the hockey. I became an author and a speaker, and this is where I am today. But it all started with a dream. So don't stop dreaming. Don't stop believing. It's like a muscle, your belief system, and you got to strengthen it. Without work, it doesn't get strengthened. It's like go to the gym, and then you got to make them actionable. Whatever you do, you're writing a book. I make time to do my task, and there's some things that I need to practice. Like I'm more of a storyteller than a writer. I like to tell stories. Like most of my writing comes from stories that because of encounters and different things, and so anyway, that's how my life has been transforming. Through dreaming, believing, and doing, and then making sure that I'm intentional and consistent about my growing uh, my ability to communicate, to relate, equip myself, lead myself, and having the right attitude all the time.
But I want to talk about your books because like you said, you wrote three and one's coming out next year in March. I like the fact that you have one about prevention, like things that are preventing you to reach your potential. Do you want to speak about that? Like, what are some things that prevent you? Because I have to admit, like when we met at the holiday market, I did speak about my book. And I said there was a lot of things that prevented me, a lot of things in my way, but I was able to overcome them. What are some things, and how can you overcome these little things that sabotage you?
Okay. So this idea comes from my hockey story when my eldest son PK was drafted by Montreal Canadiens and played 13 years professionally, played for Team Canada, played World Juniors, won gold medals playing for Canada, made many all-star teams and so on. And early in minor hockey, a coach told him, I think he might have been around 10 or 11 years of age, maybe a year older, I'm not sure, but around there anyway, around in that ballpark, a coach told him, PK, you'll never make it in hockey and you'll never go as far as I did.
Wow.
And so when I'm speaking to young children or adults, I would ask this question. Did the coach's words or actions stop PK from reaching his dream? And they all say, no, I can't hear you, no. And then I'll ask them, who or what is stopping you? What is stopping you? And so what are the things preventing us?
Mhm.
And those things preventing us, so if it's fear, it's not real. Is it you're procrastinating too? Not, I always say you got to take action. It doesn't matter how you start, you know. Um, and we know people have real trauma and so on and so forth. And sometimes we need help to get going. But you know, we can come up with every excuse or excuses not to start. And so that's what the book explores. In that story, the hockey skates, um, PK, the story, and it's a true story in this sense that my boys starting out wearing used equipment. They didn't start out using this brand new stuff. You know what I mean? Like
Mm.
they're all worn and broken in. And so the story is he's waiting for his brand new pair of skates because winter is here. And we promised him a brand new pair of skates. And every time the skate boxes came in the mail, there was something wrong. It was the wrong size. One time it was empty. And,
Wow.
and so he's dealing with disappointments. And eventually it came and he went on. And so we talk about disappointments. You know,
Yeah.
you know, it's something that we have to learn to work through and navigate. And
Aren't
so,
you?
yeah, sometimes things don't go our way and we just stop and we give up. You know what I mean? And what I'm saying is, no, that's part of the process of achieving. There's no straight, even if you're climbing Mount Everest, I don't think there's a straight line up to the top. You know what I mean? That's the way life is.
Because I mean, life is a journey, right? You're gonna have disappointments. I mean, like it's just part of the journey. Like nothing is
Yes.
perfect. But it because you have nothing to talk about if it's perfect. Be
Yeah,
honest.
that's right.
Like you
That's
have
right.
to
That's right.
navigate the ups and downs
Yeah.
of life and getting to your goal. There's the ups and downs. So I
Yeah.
totally understand the things that are preventing you. And sometimes it is you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like because it's just in your head.
Yeah.
So
Most of the times it is. Yeah. Most of the time. And sometimes we're waiting until we feel this certain feeling that we need to start.
yeah.
You know what I mean? Or whatever. You know what I mean? No, just start. Take action. Take some small steps. Get going. Because there are a million things can stop us from starting. You don't
Yeah.
feel you're in your head, it's not going to be good. You know what I mean? I can't do this.
Yeah.
But I mean, I'm lying. Like, no. You know, they say, I read this thing the other day, and because I'm reading this book called The Confidence Gap, and I really like it. And it talks about when you have these feelings, you know, I think they use the word name. So you got to, is it you got to notice it? Or, yeah, you got to notice it. And then, and you got to acknowledge it, whatever the feeling is. And you
Yeah.
got to make room for it. So whenever you have this feeling, I can't do this, you know, I'm going to try to do it. I'm not going to deny it. There goes that feeling again. I'm putting myself down, but I'm, you know, acknowledge there. And so just, they say, make room for it. We
Mhm.
all have them. You're not the only one. Just make room for it. And the next thing you know, it doesn't like the room it's in, and it takes off.
Mm. I like what Carl had to say about fear and the things preventing you from taking action. I'm still working on overcoming fears and getting out of my head, so his words hit. But before we end the show, I wanted to ask Carl about his son's experience playing hockey. They were tapping into their potential, but I wanted to know what it was like for his sons who participated in a sport where most players don't look like them. I wanted to know. Listen to his answer.
And so my boys, they were there refining their skills, developing their skills, refining their skills. It didn't change the color of their skin. You know what? How people saw me was not as important as how I saw myself. And you know that confidence, like that thing about, I always tell kids, you know, you got to love yourself. And I said, you know what? I know my mom and dad love me a lot, but I know I love myself more. It's that love that we need to achieve the things that we want to achieve. Because if you don't love yourself, that's fuel. You know, you can't send a rocket to the moon and an empty fuel tank, okay? And so that's what that love is. The most important love, I know we say it's mom and dad, yeah, but you gotta, because sometimes mom and dad's love's not there. So you gotta fill up your tank with your love. You know, what's more important than the color of my skin is my potential. You know what I mean? Like I can't change the color of my skin, but I can grow into my potential. So let's spend more time doing that. You know, because I never wanted the color of my skin to stop me or my kids from doing the things they wanted to do. Think about it. After a while, the people on the ice, I don't know if they saw a black hockey player, they saw a good hockey player. Let them, after a while, I want them to see a good person. I want them to see a good principal. I want them to see a good author who's looking at me right now.
I like that your take on it. You're like that. You don't see that. You don't care about that. You care about what you're doing, your potential. Love
Yep.
it. Love
Yep.
that.
Yeah. And because if I spent my time focusing on my beautiful black skin, to where I was born, but we forget we're born with potential too. My black skin's not going to change. I want to have a dream. I'm going to believe I can achieve it. And then I'm going to become a doer. You got to take action. And that's what I want all of our children to do. Right?
Yeah.
People might see the little black boy, they see the little black girl, but I want them to see themselves as a little person with big potential. Wow. Some of them don't even know they have it because we haven't told them.
Mm.
Think about it. We're keeping it a secret. And that's why my story, it's really about telling the story of the power of potential. I was born in Jamaica, came here when I was 12 years of age, middle of Jamaica, very as center as far south as you can go. I was born there, 1958. The same year Willie O'Ree, the first black player to play in the NHL, was he became the first player of color in the NHL the year I was born. I don't know if you know that, 1958. I was destined for hockey.
Wow.
That's not by accident. Right? But anyway, look where I was born. I
Yeah.
was born with potential. My kids were born here. They were born with potential. And my kids were not born with any hockey genes, my boys. Okay?
As you can hear, I had a fantastic time speaking with Karl. He's very motivating, very positive, and tells us how it is to become successful. If you'd like to know more about Karl, you can visit his website at coachkarl.com, and you can view my show notes for his Instagram and LinkedIn handles. Thanks for being on the show, Karl.
Fantastic. So nice meeting you online, and let's connect soon. All right?
Thanks again for listening to the latest episode of Words with Michelle, the podcast. Just a reminder, you can subscribe to the podcast on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. You can also listen to the show on my blog at wordswithmichelle.com. If you have any questions, or if you'd like to provide a comment or feedback, or if you'd like to be a guest on the show, you can email me at michelle@wordswithmichelle.com. You can also email me if you're interested in sponsoring an episode. Thanks again for listening to the show, and until next time, bye.